Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Used cars starting at just $59.95. $59.95. And your trade is worth more. Shop local and save with straightforward pricing, exceptional service and selection, certified friendly staff, no games, no gimmicks, and more inventory arriving daily, plus flexible financing options for every budget. We've got the credit. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. The Liberty 250 savings event on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Example 2009 Chevrolet Impala, stock number KA260134B, plus tax, tag title, and $697 processing fee.
Big events call for a big impression, so make that big impression. Reserve a private room at Charlie's. You'll comfortably accommodate up to 65 guests in an intimate atmosphere paired with Charlie's signature hospitality. And each guest can select from Charlie's signature items while knowing Charlie's seamless service will be on top of the details, so everyone can enjoy the moment. Celebrate in style at Charlie's. Book your private room today at charlieslynchburg.com. Charlie's, where great food meets great company.
Starting the landscaping business? Growing your fleet? Miller Built Outdoor Equipment is focused on commercial turf professionals across Central Virginia. We help you choose the right Toro commercial mower, professional handheld equipment, and the right support plan, so your operation grows the right way. Commercial turf is your business. Supporting it is ours. Miller Built Outdoor Equipment on 12th Street in Lynchburg.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
That's what he's supposed to sound like. Because you know we love this soundbite here in the Fast Lane as we so often play it.
Dollar bills, y'all.
But reality is it's even more complicated or more pronounced, shall we say, than that when it comes to college athletics.
Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar bill, yo.
That's the goal of an athletic director. And that is what Virginia Tech is getting with new athletic director Brian White. I listened to his entire press conference today, introductory version. We'll recap it. Andy Bitter, TechSideline.com, 5:45 today. What stood out the most are a couple of things. One, James Franklin was literally front and center at the press conference. Like literally, he was on the front row at the press conference before he was made available to speak with the media for about 13 minutes afterwards. But there's also this. Brian White is the new athletic director at Virginia Tech. Part of the reason is because of a thorough process for Virginia Tech that, if nothing else, it indicated to him, and maybe with the nudge of James Franklin, that this is how an athletic director search should go, even if you have a search firm in charge.
The process was very, very professional and well done. So from my perspective, I think it was really impressive. President Sands mentioned how it was 26 days. To me, as somebody from the outside being recruited, you need a very efficient process. And I felt very good that how professional and well run on all accounts. So I'm very grateful for that.
Quick, efficient, well run. Does that not scream James Franklin as well? And there are more elements to James Franklin being all about this press conference that we will get into tomorrow in the Fast Lane. But an efficient process. That's not something you could say about Virginia Tech athletics in prior years and in prior situations. Seemed like there was a lot of lag time on getting things done and accomplished. In this day and age, when people say it needs to have been done yesterday, it sure feels like that's the case in college athletics because there is an entirely new base upon which they must pay out funds. The players, of course. And a lot of schools have tried to find ways to avoid cutting athletic programs, understandable. Trying to find ways to avoid cutting a lot of extraneous staff. In some cases, it may be necessary because everyone's got it in football. In other cases, you wonder how a bunch of people with a bunch of complex job titles really need to be kept around. And look, there are examples of it where it can be handled more correctly and more professionally. But it is the nature of the business right now in college athletics, is that. And part of this goes back to something that David Teal has a couple of nuggets that are out there. One, over a 5-year period, 5 years, as LeBron would remind us.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4.
But 5 years. The 600 block. And we're not talking about Hood Street in Lynchburg, where you can get a great property for sale. And if you do, you can list it with Brownstone Properties, as they'd be glad to help you rent that out. Hood Street, Lynchburg, near the University of Lynchburg. Great property for sale. Absolutely worth checking it out. May or may not have done that myself. But I will throw this out there. What is it, Trey? I'm trying to get multiple bidders for you. Come on. I'm trying to jack up the price. I'm trying to help you out.
Just contact friend of the show, Scott Roberts. That's all I got to say.
Yes, son of Mr. Scott Roberts does work for executive maintenance. His dad is Steve. But you can contact him. He's also a realtor in the area and is doing a great job with Trey if you want that house. Meanwhile, and by the way, when you get it, if you want to rent it out, list it with Brownstone Properties, because I've already got some with them. Fantastic job. Quick turnaround, prompt attention to detail, and we're getting the job done with that. But back to the task at hand for a moment.
After Ed's potentially unnecessary detour, let's get back on the road in the fast lane.
The 600 block that we reference is $600 million, actually 625, over a 5-year period that Brian White somehow found to support Florida Atlantic University, FAU, athletics. Look, that's FAU. That's not Florida, FSU, Florida State. It's not the U, which happens to have a healthcare system in Miami that is basically helping to assist in bankrolling that program. Call a spade a spade. This is FAU. $625 million over a 5-year window, plus a stadium naming rights deal. It sounds like it's complicated for new naming rights deals to be a full deal for football or basketball or other venues at Virginia Tech. The softball field used to have a naming rights sponsor. They're not a Spartans or ours in the fast lane.
So did the court I think it still does at Virginia Tech.
Yes, the court at Castle Coliseum has a naming rights sponsor. But it's hard to, if something has an actual name to it
The
in
baseball
Virginia
field
Tech.
has a sponsor. I mean,
Yes. Well, what we're getting at, though, is $22.5 million naming rights deal for Florida Atlantic University on top of the $625 million. All these figures, by the way, according to a friend of ours in the fast lane, the great David Teal of dailypress.com, who put that out earlier. That's where Brian White comes in. And he gets it. He understands. There are a couple of explanations for this. One, if nothing else, people say always be closing. I hate that term. I like always be conversing, always be communicating, always be, this is not a C, opening up relationships. Because essentially that's what it is. Communicating and conversing is how you have sustained growth in sales. Look, we're not the best in the world, I wouldn't think. I don't think I'm the best salesperson in the world, but one thing I'd like to say is a staple of ours in the fast lane and at the Virginia Talk Radio Network is consistent communication with business partners of ours, making yourself available for doing that. More on that, by the way, tomorrow. Expectations from James Franklin. But today, it's to grow resources, and that's one way you do it.
I think resources are, especially in today's day and age, today's world, resources are critical for success. So my goal is going to be to grow our resources and make our resources commensurate with expectations.
Grow my resources. That's what Brian White, the new Virginia Tech athletic director, said when he spoke today. Essentially getting his Wu-Tang Clan on.
Cash rules everything around me. Queen, get the money. Dollar bill, yo.
Gotta get the money. It is what it is for Virginia Tech. It's what it is for everybody in major college athletics. That has to be a skill set because instead of doing more with less, do more with more.
You mentioned you think that Virginia Tech is going to win a national championship under Coach Franklin. You guys were on the brink of it in men's basketball at FAU. What did you learn there about doing more with not the most resources? Because that's the position that Virginia Tech finds itself in.
I think we need to change that. I think we need to grow our resources, and that's my number one goal.
We need to change that. Trey, you're a Virginia Tech guy. Is that music to your ears? Doing more with less? No. That's not what we're doing at Virginia Tech under my watch. We're trying to do more with more. We got to get our sales on, and we got to get our Wu-Tang on.
Cash rules everything around me. Queen, get the money. Dollar bill, yo.
Got to get the money. That's what Brian White's mission is.
I mean, his brother Danny White did win a national championship at UCF, so
Touche.
So yeah, he's just got to up his brother.
Essentially, yes. But if you're Virginia Tech, that's what you need. Look, I think there is some value in taking pride of doing more with less in the sense of maximizing resources and efficiency. Like a good business should still strive to maximize efficiency. You don't want to have people around just for a job. I had this pointed out to me by a buddy of mine who's in auto sales. And you might know him because we've done some shout outs, but they're not a partner of ours, so we're not going to mention the name at the moment here in the Fast Lane. But a buddy of mine. And he said one of the things he always tells new people in the auto industry or any other industry is if the job doesn't have value, we're going to eliminate it. And that's not spoken from someone in ownership or management. That's spoken from someone who understands just as an employee that your livelihood depends on being a valuable piece to that puzzle. Because it may not sound like traditional academia, but if you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, or at least a multi-million-dollar enterprise at each of these universities, you can't run it like academia. Sabbaticals, by the way.
Time to take a detour in the Fast Lane.
Don't get me started on that concept. In academia, you can do it. In the real world, sabbatical, you might as well just be gone forever. Like, you're not getting to have 6 months of paid leave to go study and find yourself and find inner peace. You can do that when you're not on the clock. But when you're in the real world, it doesn't quite work like that. That is called vacation or PTO time in the real world.
After Ed's potentially unnecessary detour, let's get back on the road in the Fast Lane.
But for far too long, so often athletic departments have been operated with more of an academia mindset. Athletic directors have often come from other elements of academic-sided situations. And look, in high school, I can totally understand that. But even in high school, you got to be able to divide yourself to be as efficient as possible. We had a great discussion yesterday with Jeremy Sink, who's the athletic director at Jefferson Forest, about being an efficient operation and their demands at that school, as there are at many in our area, in our footprint, because of the value people place, justifiably, I would say, on high school sports, the meaning of it, the uniting of the community, helping student athletes become the best version of themselves, and learning values that they can take beyond that. But it still has to be run efficiently. And we're just viewing that differently in life and in society. And Brian White seems to get that.
It starts with the people in place, and having a really, really good staff and really good systems and metrics and accountability. Functioning like a business, I think is important. And that being said, I don't know the systems that are in place now, and I want to get to know the people and learn how everything's run currently. But I know what it needs to look like, and I've proven that over the years at different places in growing revenues. That I believe we can grow the revenues here significantly from all sides. And I think that there's a great, strong, passionate fan base in place. There's great history here. We have all the tools necessary to grow our resources and help fund give our coaches and student athletes the necessary investment in order to win championships.
I mean, look, that's what you got to do. Again, you have to have the Wu-Tang mindset.
Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar bill,
You got to be focused on getting the money and then deploying it in a professional manner that will generate a much more efficient operation. And James Franklin, it's where I think it's good that he's got his footprints and handprints on this search, because that's what Virginia Tech has needed. They needed somebody who understands how that type of operation looks, flows, and feels, which James Franklin noted is what he wanted Virginia Tech to have when he took the job back last October or November, whenever it was, and he was hired, last at the end of 2025. And now it's being carried out. If I'm a Virginia Tech fan, and you are, Trey, I'd be encouraged by the tone of the press conference with Brian White today, where the first three questions were all about athletic resources, because that is what is necessary to achieve those type of results.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's positive in the right way. I think everything that's going on has been good for Virginia Tech since they've realigned what the right focus is in athletics. And I truly think that this is something that we're going to see develop into a really fruitful time for Virginia Tech. Now, I think in order for the other programs to succeed at this point, they have to get football off the ground and get it back going. And once it's sustainable, then they can probably reinvest properly. But I do think you look at baseball and softball this past year, both having a resurgence. I think basketball showed improvement despite the fact it was a disappointment. I think they're bringing back a roster that fits Mike Young's style and still could be a tournament team. Probably not as good as but will it? I don't know. But I think the entire athletic department is just realigned in the proper way, and also for Virginia Tech and its fan base, it's focused on what it wants, and that's football, which I think is something that it got away from a little bit, but it also resulted in some of the best eras of certain athletics, like the certain sports teams at Virginia Tech. Like, we had the best probably 6-year run of Virginia Tech basketball ever. You had from from winning the ACC championship pass to the last 2 years of buzz. You also have currently one of the best programs in the country in Virginia Tech wrestling that's hitting an even higher stride that I didn't think it could, where they're going to have a true national champion contender coming next year. And then you have a football program that is probably momentum-wise one of the best in the country right now. Momentum-wise, like having one of the best, and probably, I mean, in terms of trajectory, second best in the ACC. Like over the next, if you took outside of Miami, what program you taking over the next 5 years in terms of way the momentum and the trajectory? It's hard to say Virginia Tech is not two.
I would agree with that.
Miami.
Yeah, I mean, Miami looks like they're in a real strong spot. Florida State, they are a mess. Clemson, they're going to probably have to clean one up, because if it goes south this year, they're going to have a lot of money to make Dabo Swinney depart. And look, he doesn't want to change how he operates. And I mean, I know he's a great God-fearing man and a man of God, which is great. But this is also a business, and when you don't use one of the key elements to business, the transfer portal, that's a problem. Louisville, well, we'll get to that right now in the Fast Five at 5-ish, because there's a similar theme right here.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
Louisville Athletics. This, according to Sports Business Journal, they expect to run at a deficit of $30 million in the fiscal year 2027. This will be, wait for it, it's, well, let LeBron tell you.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4.
But 5th consecutive year of a negative balance in an 8-year time frame. Excuse me, a 5th year of a negative balance in an 8-year time frame for Louisville. The projected deficit, $18.8 million higher than the last deficit of $11.2 million in 2026. Things are going in the wrong direction for Louisville. As much money is being invested in Louisville football and Louisville athletics, it's not yielding an ROI. And maybe some of that's because they're putting more of that into basketball. And yes, they've had some in football, but not to the same level as their peers in college sports. Whereas for Virginia Tech, you need football at the top. And if football eats, everybody else can eat. If not now, then when a Super League comes. It's not guaranteed you're going to eat, but we know what happens when football is not prioritized. And Louisville, while it prioritizes it relative to some in the ACC, not relative to others, and that 5 and 8 year budget deficit streak, or trend, if you will, is not a friendly reminder of that. Meanwhile,
number 4.
In theory, I don't like all of the extensions for the Atlanta Falcons that they have given out, including yesterday's contract, $52 million over a 3-year, $4 million over a 3-year window to tight end Kyle Pitts, $18 million per year on average. That's actually the one I'm okay with. I thought they grossly overpaid for Drake London. I think he's a good receiver, but separation's not really his forte, comparatively speaking, whereas Pitts, I think, is not all that dissimilar to Drake London, and you're getting him a much more friendly deal, even though it's a higher end for the tight end at $18 million per year. I like this one for the Falcons. They'll probably lock up Bijan Robinson next, which is a good thing. They still have 2 big challenges, though, on offense, and this is the thing. They look great at all the skill positions. But quarterback is a mess right now with Michael Penix Jr. having his injuries. They're counting on Tua Tagovailoa. We know about his concussion history. I pray that does not happen for him, but you can't omit that either. And then the offensive line has been good, but nothing close to spectacular, which in and of itself, that is also its own level of issue. Meanwhile,
Number 3.
on his NFL note, but a much more serious tone, we pray that friend of the Fast Lane, back when TJ Wilkerson was with us, he had a couple of great interviews with ESPN draft analyst Matt Miller. But Matt Miller was in a horrific car accident a week or so ago and had to have his left arm amputated. First of all, just prayers for him in that recovery. I cannot imagine what that's like to go through for him, how scarring that is, life-altering. I'll also say this. Think of a guy like Inky Johnson. If you're not familiar with him, he's a fantastic motivational speaker and worth your search on Twitter or Instagram. But Inky Johnson's an example of somebody. He had an injury he sustained playing football against Air Force his junior year at the University of Tennessee. And he said he wouldn't change it for anything in the world because it's made him who he is today. He wouldn't be who he is today, and I wouldn't have been motivated by him. So, while I don't wish that on anybody, I can say fully speaking that there is some good that comes out of bad situations. That's where it's hard, but it also is depending on your level of trust, faith, and your perspective. Meanwhile,
Number 2.
NBA draft was last night. The Washington Wizards did what Trey thought was the smart move when he said yesterday in the Fast Lane, drafting A.J. Debinsa from BYU with the number 1 overall pick. Darren Peterson went second to the Utah Jazz, even though his camp tried to say that he was going to go number 1. Obviously, that didn't happen. Duke's Carlos Boozer goes to the Memphis Grizzlies. Cameron Boozer goes number 3 to the Memphis Grizzlies, and then Carolina's Caleb Wilson right after that to the Chicago Bulls. Trey, your draft night observations, your 3 big winners or losers, and we do not count your Miami Heat for getting Giannis, even though they gave up their pick the night before.
Okay, can I say a big loser?
Yes.
I agree with SVP and a lot of people. I will never understand. I had to explain to newly minted Knicks fan Storm Lyle. I have to get used to that because she just loves Jalen Brunson and keeps singing "Go New York, Go New York, Go." She imagine that in my house the last couple of weeks since they, ironically, because she had insomnia and watched them come back against the Celtics. To give her credit, it wasn't when they won the finals; it was when they won the Eastern Conference Finals. Anyway, the hats thing. Where, for example...
Oh, I hate this. Sorry, I detest it.
For example, even though everyone knows at number 13, Nate Ament will not be a member of the Miami Heat, and this one makes more... that he has to wear a Miami Heat hat. And it's like Adam Silver comes out later. For players to be named later, the Miami Heat have traded the draft rights to Nate Ament to the Milwaukee Bucks. It's like, the NFL does this. Like, either move the draft to after the league year, which it probably is what needs to happen. And that's why none of these trades become official, is the league year technically hasn't started. And just have the guys wear the right hats. Because, it's hilarious to see, draft night, the Atlanta Hawks with a Luka Doncic wearing an Atlanta Hawks hat and Trae Young wearing a Dallas Mavericks hat. Because they weren't just Kobe Bryant wore a Hornets hat. Okay? This is and then I think the top 4. They were the 4 best players in the draft. I think they all went to the right spots. And I think all 4 could be the best player in this draft. I think all 4 could be great. I think Darren Peterson I actually think Darren Peterson of the top 4 is in the right ecosystem because Will Hardy is a really good coach. They have a really good front office with Danny Ainge. Austin Ainge's son is the GM. And also, it's not like there's a lot of things to do in Utah. And a guy who has red flags, I feel like going to Utah is probably not a bad idea.
That's a good point, Trey. Meanwhile, speaking of Storm Durham's New York Knicks.
Lyle, don't get in trouble.
Sorry, let's try that again. Speaking of Storm Lyle's New York Knicks.
Number 1.
Angie Baez, who was a top DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion executive at a certain bank, largely renowned in New York City, JP Morgan Chase. You get all that in? She was the one who went viral for the stunt during the Knicks championship parade where she was caught literally dumping a bunch of trash out onto the street, not into another trash container like a responsible citizen, but like a ne'er-do-well, just dumping it onto the street and then taking the trash can off because that was never going to get caught on social media. First of all, don't hate the DEI initiative because of this person. And I know people have their own opinions on that. We'll direct them to the Virginia's Talk Station app. In theory, I am for diversity in the workplace. It brings diversity of perspective and opinions when you get the right qualified candidates. Some people just don't want to include because they're part of their good old boys network or good old girls network or whatever it is, when in reality, people from different backgrounds in a job actually can enhance what the job can do and your ability to pull from bigger ideas. Just saying that. But it doesn't mean that you should sit there and believe that they aren't without criticism either. People are getting upset because Angie Baez has now been blackmailed on social media and it cost her to lose her job. Here's a novel concept. How about she take personal accountability for it? How about she not dump the trash on the street with not even dumping it into another can to take the New York Knicks customized trash can? She could have dumped this trash into another can and at least done something right. She literally just poured it on the street. Like, yep, I'll take it. Never going to get caught. Well, now you did. And here's the reality. Something bad goes wrong. We've said this with Diana Rossini and Mike Vrabel. We've said it in other instances. Personal accountability goes a long way. And part of that is you may be forgiven, but you still have consequences. And her consequences are losing a job that reportedly paid her in the neighborhood of $250,000 to $300,000 per year. If you don't like the punishment and the consequences, don't engage in the behavior. It's something I'm trying to teach my kids. And unfortunately, in our world today, it's something that plenty of upstanding or not so upstanding adults don't seem to grasp. Meanwhile, an upstanding adult, because he is a member of our military and he's a NASCAR reporter.
Sometimes he is.
I'll let Trey Lyle explain himself next to Dalton Hopkins of FrontStretch.com.
At Motor Mile Kia on the Sheeler Motor Mile, we're making it happen. Right now is the perfect time to find your next Kia with over 200 new Kia vehicles available to choose from and more arriving daily. We've proudly served Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. And while we're upgrading our facility with exciting new renovations, we're still here every day with the selection, saving service, and financing options you expect from Motor Mile Kia. We've got the volume on the Motor Mile, and there's no better place to buy a new Kia. Plus, shop now and enjoy Motor Mile Star benefits, lifetime Virginia state inspections, loaner cars for warranty repairs, convenient drive-in service, and a 48-hour exchange program for added peace of mind. So whether you're shopping for a fuel-saving sedan, a family van, or a brand new SUV, why wait? We're making it happen at Motor Mile Kia on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER-1 or shop anytime. We're always open at MotorMileKia.com.
The clock is ticking. Time is running out for Virginia citizens to purchase modern sporting rifles and magazines from Big Boys Guns. Beat the July 1st deadline. Right now, the selection is robust at Big Boys Guns. ARs, AKs, and the most popular handguns will soon be banned from sale in the state of Virginia. Don't wait. Visit Big Boys Guns before the inventory is gone and not allowed to return. Shop 24/7 at BigBoysGuns.com and in store on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
Guests are great, except unwanted guests. At Specialty Exterminating, we know the difference. Hi, I'm Sabrina Kennan with Specialty Exterminating. We help you keep unwanted pests out of your home. Now we can keep those reptiles away. Our new reptile repellent is the perfect add-on for your pest prevention service. It's pet and people safe, so it's perfect for any homeowner, especially pool owners and homes in wooded and rural areas. Call us so we can repel the reptiles. Specialty Exterminating, your pest prevention partner since 1979.
Big transitions feel like big hurdles. That's why Central Virginia Counseling has 2 dynamic 6-week summer groups for rising 6th and 9th graders packed with essential life skills. Each week targets a new skill for success, tools like organization, time management, task initiation, anxiety reduction techniques, and skills for making friends and communicating well. Through peer connection and expert guidance, students will gain tools to feel capable, connected, and ready for day one. Visit us on Timberlake Road or Wigington Road in Lynchburg or at centralvirginiacounseling.com to learn more.
Midday hunger hitting you hard? Swing by Macadoo's for our $8.95 weekday lunch specials. Whether you're craving a classic crunch or something fresh, we've got you covered. Chicken tender basket featuring crispy golden tenders served with fries. The Macadoo's Chef Salad, a healthy, loaded favorite that will hit the spot. Hit back against your lunchtime hunger at Macadoo's with eats that won't break the bank.
Time to share, breaking that ball. Just to be there, the only one. Just to be there at Macadoo's.
We'll see you at the Do's.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
No joke. I have been waiting to ask this question of our next guest, and you should be waiting for his response. Who needs my question? But we do want the response From Dalton Hopkins of frontstretch.com, who is back with us once again here in the Fast Lane. Dalton, great to be speaking with you. I pray that you've been traveling safely. What was it like for a member of our military, and we thank you for your service, active and past, to be covering a NASCAR race at Naval Air Force Air Coronado out in San Diego?
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me on, Ed. A collision of two worlds that I never thought would ever occur. If you had told me 5 years ago, and I do mean 5 years ago, this is 5 years ago is when we were racing on the Daytona road course, so we were still doing some crazy stuff back then, but if you had told me 5 years ago that we were going to be racing on a naval base, an active naval base, and not just any active naval base, but probably one of the most prominent, if not the most prominent naval bases in the entire country, I probably would have called you crazy, because this was a really great weekend. This was a really cool weekend, a really neat idea. And to be honest with you, going through a security gate with Brian Nolan, going through like a guard shack that I usually have to go to when I get onto a base in the car with Brian Nolan is not something I ever thought I would have to do. And honestly, I'm just happy we got through security with him in the car. So overall, though, really, really neat weekend, a really interesting collision of worlds for me that I don't know if I'm ever going to feel something like that again.
Do you think the only way you would have made it through is because you were there just to quote unquote give clearance to Brian Nolan? Because it feels like the U.S. government and mainly the Department of Defense would not let Brian Nolan be unaccompanied on any sort of military base in this country.
It's like letting my kids run free.
I'm surprised they didn't flag him. I'm surprised he wasn't like flagged when he went to the background check. But I mean, the background checks were so extensive though that they were taking so long that by day 2 they just got rid of him. They were just like, you know what, if you got a media pass, you're in. So I don't know, maybe he lucked out there.
Dalton, the experience itself, would you say the quality of the racing was quality, and we're talking about the Cup race Sunday, was quality racing itself, or was it quality because SVG took out not only himself, but big contenders like, I'll get my Ty Gibbs reference in, as well as Connor Zilisch, and therefore this just turned into a wide open race?
No, I think the quality of racing was great the whole weekend. I mean, honestly, yes, we were kind of expecting an SVG clobber fest, but the thing is that even though he was the favorite, the racing behind him was still really good. The racing in the Truck Series were still really good. The racing in the O'Reilly Series was still really good. And I think that was probably one of the most surprising things. I was really worried that the quality of racing was not going to be all that great, and more of the focus was going to be on the novelty of racing on a naval base, but that wasn't really the case. The street course was really well designed. It was very challenging for the drivers, and that was the biggest story, is that these guys really had to show why they're the best in the world at this stuff, and they proved it. A lot of them did prove it. I mean, there was a literal jump in the course. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. These guys had airtime, so it was really, really impressive to watch these guys do what they do. And those who were better than others, it really goes to show, it really was able to showcase that talent. Corey Heim, of course, ends up winning, but yes, SVG stole the show. Connor Zilisch was still very fast, and yes, at points, Ty Gibbs was also kind of fast too. So, and that was really the most surprising thing in a very good way. I was very pleasantly surprised to see that the racing quality was really great.
Pit Lane CPT on Twitter. The better one is on Instagram. Oh no, it's Dalton. That's Dalton Hopkins in his handles. He's with frontstretch.com here in the Fast Lane. Dalton, you referenced the quality of racing. Is this indicative that we might get quality racing on more road/street course races with this current car configuration? I'm extending it beyond this year. Or is this a one-off situation, and starting this weekend at Sonoma, we're back to more of the follow the leader, and we'll get to Shane Van Gisbergen in a second?
I don't know if we'll ever have more than one street race per schedule. I think NASCAR kind of wants to keep the novelty of it. I know the naval base was sort of a double whammy with that, in that being a street course and also a street course on an active military base. But obviously there are rumors that, yes, we'll be going back to Chicago next year. Those are, again, are just rumors, pleasant rumors. But the point being is that there is still a want for this street course, racing. And who could blame them? I think the racing has been the racing quality has been fantastic, even though yes, SVG has been for the most part dominant on these types of tracks. Regardless, they're still putting on a really decent show, and I think part of that is the novelty behind it also kind of gives it a little bit of a positive mask behind it too. Even if sometimes they are single file, and even if sometimes it is hard to pass, you still watch these guys go by an aircraft carrier or go by some street lights in Chicago, and you just think, wow, I can't believe this is happening. And that novelty just hasn't seemed to fallen off yet. So while all this stuff is still going on, and while the racing can still be exciting at times, I don't see a reason why NASCAR is going to stop, and I don't think they're going to want to stop. And not to mention, above everything else, this is just proven that they have the ability to just pick up a track and put it anywhere. I mean, the examples go beyond Chicago and Coronado. We're talking about the LA Coliseum. We're talking about Bowman Gray. We're talking about Mexico City. Talking about North Wilkesboro, which was a dead and gone track, and NASCAR has still been able to pull off the impossible and make races at these places. So the sky's the limit, and I see no reasons for NASCAR to pump the brakes on it.
Meanwhile, racing this weekend, it sticks with the road-ish course theme. It's actually a road course, not a street course. NASCAR heads to Sonoma this weekend. Is this where SVG bounces back and actually trounces the field in both the Xfinity, well, I'm going to call it a curse word for me, where SVG trounces the field Saturday and Sunday in both races?
Yeah, it certainly probably would feel that way. I'm pretty sure he's undefeated at Sonoma, if I'm not mistaken. I have to go back and make sure, but yeah, he won 2 years ago in the O'Reilly race, won last year in the O'Reilly race, and then he also won in the Cup race. So I got to imagine that he's probably going to be the favorite once again. But at the same time, I can't help but feel like that this past weekend has definitely gone to show that he can lose, and he's not invincible when it comes to these types of tracks. Now, look, to be fair, it really wasn't his fault. He kind of got taken out by Austin Hill, and this was a really difficult course. But now we're going back to more of a bread and butter road course, as you put it, and Sonoma is definitely one of those. And I feel like SVG, he's got something to prove here. And not to mention, this is the last road course of the season now that we've taken away the Roval. This is his last chance to probably realistically get a win. And I think now the pressure is going to be higher than ever, especially with where he is in points. Because, I mean, again, I have to go back and look, but he's pretty close to the bubble. So he's going to need to put on a good performance here.
You anticipate a good performance for SVG this coming weekend. Do you anticipate a good performance with the TNT broadcast that will feature Jimmy Johnson, Marty Smith, and others?
Well, they did pretty okay last year. I mean, I don't think they were on the level of Prime, but I do think that, look, Marty Smith, those guys are professionals. I pretty much welcome any broadcast, any new broadcast, and I'm really interested to see what they can do. Unfortunately, I wish we still had Alan Cavana. I think it's kind of a shame that he's not coming back. He's a fantastic pit reporter, but and a great friend. He's a friend of the Happy Hour show. We've had him on before, but regardless, I think they'll put on a decent performance. And not to mention, they've also got the bracket, the tournament style bracket. I guess they're calling it the in-season challenge. They got that to focus on too, just like they did last year. So that's another aspect of it. I feel like they're probably learned from what they did last year, probably learned from some of the mistakes they may have made, and I'm hoping they can make the quality of broadcast a little bit better.
Frontstretch.com's Dalton Hopkins is with us here in the Fast Lane. Dalton, your colleague Tanner Marlar, who is slated to join us in the back part of next week here in the Fast Lane, had a great question. Does NASCAR need to stick exclusively with Prime? Is that even a realistic possibility, or is this just it's where we are in the near future and even the distant future of more people because that means more money?
Well, I think that's a double-edged sword. As great as that sounds, you have to keep in mind Prime really had to focus all of their efforts in 5 weeks. And that to stretch that out to 36, that's a tall order. That's a big ask. And I have no doubt that Prime certainly has the wingspan to do something like that. But you also have to keep in mind that that is also a streaming service that not everybody's going to have access to, and not everybody wants to have access to. So some of the more, let's say, older race fans who are more used to watching something on cable, more used to watching it on Fox or on NBC, they're not really going to have access to that because they don't have any Prime subscription. So you take those guys out of the equation. And I don't think NASCAR is probably going to be too into that. That said, I do feel like that if maybe they had the half of the season, kind of like what we used to do with Fox and NBC, if they had 18 and 18 races, I think maybe that quality would still be kind of there. I don't think it would be on par with what we see now, but I do feel like it would be at least a fresh example of what a NASCAR broadcast can be, and not to mention a really great pre-race show and a great post-race show. I'm gonna miss the heck out of those.
I don't think Twitter will allow this much long length in a name, but it should be Oh No, It's Dalton on Twitter as well as Instagram. For Dalton Hopkins of FrontStretch.com, who's generous enough to join us in the Fast Lane instead, you'll just have to look for Pit Lane CPT, the Twitter account. Dalton, we wrap it up on this, and we are grateful for your time in the Fast Lane. The other side of the equation, and it was also discussed in a great article that was put out earlier this week from your colleague Amy Henderson, I believe, from FrontStretch.com about Jimmy Johnson running in the NASCAR Truck Series. Is that what Jimmy Johnson and the Truck Series actually need? And by the way, if it's not Amy Henderson, I would like to extend my apologies and forgiveness to her and your colleagues.
No, it's quite all right. No, I think I don't know if that's what the Truck Series needs per se. I think Jimmy Johnson was a really great addition to the field, and I mean, to be honest with you, there was some moments where I really thought he was going to have a shot at winning. I mean, he probably had one of the strongest trucks in the field, if not the strongest, for a little bit there until he had some issues at the very end of the race and eventually got taken out with electrical malfunction. But regardless, I think anytime Jimmy's in a race, it's really great to see, and it's really great to see him still in the sport. Unfortunately, I don't think, at least realistically, I don't think he's going to be doing any more, anything like that. It sounds to me, I even spoke with him at the end of after the Cup race in San Diego, and he said, no, it's still just going to be Coronado, or it's still going to be the Daytona 500 next year, and that should be the end of it. So I don't know if the Truck Series needs more old guys going back into the Truck Series, or not old. I shouldn't say old. I should say maybe the more veteran, experienced guys coming back into the Truck Series. But it can't hurt. Maybe one or two guys could probably go down there every once in a while and maybe show some of the youngsters how to truly race.
It was Amy Henderson, by the way. For those watching at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, and VTRN Sports on Facebook Live and YouTube, I was pumping my fist because it was our girl, Amy Henderson from FrontStretch.com, who had the article about Jimmy Johnson racing in that series, something that Dalton Hopkins might be picking a bone with in a future article or in a future Front Stretch podcast segment. Dalton, we appreciate your time in the Fast Lane, teasing that, providing great perspective, and thank you for your service in the military, and we're glad you got to experience the NASCAR race down at Naval Air Force at Coronado this past weekend.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure.
It is our pleasure. Dalton Hopkins of FrontStretch.com. When we return in the Fast Lane, how much was the stamp of the Virginia Tech Athletic Director search? A James Franklin stamp. Andy Bitter of TextIsland.com will weigh in next here in the Fast Lane on the VTRN Sports app and Ask That Smart Speaker open VTRN Sports.
Don't miss the Make This the Summer sales event going on now at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Bedford, with rebates and discounts saving you up to $7,000 on new Ram 1500s, or save up to $5,500 on new Jeep Grand Cherokees. Shop over 175 pre-owned vehicles priced to sell fast, many with limited warranties. Our Make This the Summer sales event is on at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, 1750 Independence Boulevard in Bedford. MagicCityBedford.com. See dealer for details. And 6/30/26.
The clock is ticking. Time is running out for Virginia citizens to purchase modern sporting rifles and magazines from Big Boys Guns. Beat the July 1st deadline. Right now, the selection is robust at Big Boys Guns. ARs, AKs, and the most popular handguns will soon be banned from sale in the state of Virginia. Don't wait. Visit Big Boys Guns before the inventory is gone and not allowed to return. Shop 24/7 at BigBoysGuns.com and in store on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
Hi, I'm Al Billingsley, a board member with CASA of Central Virginia. Children who've experienced abuse or neglect often enter foster care feeling scared, confused, and alone. That's where CASA volunteers step in. We stand behind these children to make sure that their voices are heard in court. CASA is looking for caring adults from our community to serve as volunteer advocates. And as a man, I can tell you we're especially in need more men to step up for these kids. If you're ready to make a difference, learn more at cvcasa.org.
Come celebrate America's 250th with the Howlers at City Stadium Saturday, July 4th, presented by Drain Rangers. Enter the park and get your free patriotic rally towel. Root on the Howlers for a 6:30 p.m. first pitch, and then stay for the only fireworks show in Lynchburg following the game. America's pastime on America's 250th. Tickets are going fast, so get yours now at hchowlers.com and howl out loud.
Sandstone architecture, melodic music, wonders of the world. They're staples of Egyptian and Mediterranean culture. But you don't have to travel thousands of miles to experience it. Just drive to downtown Cairo. Downtown Cairo brings you food from the entire Mediterranean, blended with the best Egyptian recipes from super fresh ingredients. Staples like $7 euros and build your own Mediterranean bowls. Experience the taste of the Egyptian and Mediterranean world in your own backyard. Downtown Cairo, Graves Mill Shopping Center in Forest.
America 250. That's great. Your kitchen looking 250 years old? Not great. So head to Haley's America's 250 sale. Get 0% financing for up to 18 months on select appliances. Save up to $4,000 in rebates when you purchase a select kitchen package and get up to 35% off select appliances. But there's the catch, the good kind of catch. With GE and GE Profile, the more you buy, the more you save. Save up to an extra $900. Celebrate America 250 with the kitchen of your dreams at Haley's America 250 sale. June 7th through July 8th. Haley's, quality that counts.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
I mean, I guess in a sense you could say that he was getting his Mark Goodfellow on for all my Memphians that would get that reference. He's a guy that is a car salesman and happens to be noted for being front row. And it looked like James Franklin was front row today at the introductory press conference for new Virginia Tech Athletic Director Brian White. Not to mention, he had his own press conference where he met with the media for about 10 to 15 minutes after the Brian White introductory press conference. Someone who was there for TechSideline.com, Andy Bitter, joining us in the Fast Lane. Andy, did this hire have James Franklin written all over it?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if that means that Franklin just took over the entire search process. I don't think that's the case, but I think that this guy doesn't get hired unless Franklin signs off. These two are going to work closely together. This is a chance for them to get the alignment that they talk about. The buzzword of the day was alignment. Came up quite a bit. If you were playing a drinking game, that probably wouldn't have been great. But yeah, I think everybody needs to be on the same page. And when you give your football coach input, most important person in the athletic department, the football coach input into this hire, I think it makes sense. So yeah, I think Franklin had a huge role in Brian White being the choice here, and seems like they have a pretty good partnership so far.
How much is this what Virginia Tech's athletic department needs?
I'm sorry, say that again.
How much of this process, the way it unfolded, and the vision that Brian White cast today at his introductory press conference, how much is all of that what Virginia Tech needs?
Yeah, I think you listen to what he talks about, and revenue generation, looking for growth in the fan base and trying to get more resources to these teams to win. I mean, that's the name of the game in college sports right now. The days of doing more with less and accepting that as sort of the fate of the school, I think those are gone. And, James Franklin has been preaching that from the day he got here and pushing people to be better and find more money. And look what it's turned up, a $75 million donation a couple weeks ago. I think another 8-figure donation as well. There's money out there and there's resources to grow at this place that hasn't been there in the past. I think you just need to have some people that are pushing for it. So I think Brian White is a guy who does that. He has a background in revenue generation, dealing with donors, some of the things that he did at Florida Atlantic to bring in some new fans, these cabanas that they set up on the field that he says, there's a wait list for them now, and it might attract a fan that might not normally come to a game. That's growing the fan base and creating more opportunities for revenue. So, I think that is the name of the game. And I think you look at what this hire was made, that's precisely what he's being brought in here to do.
Andy Bitter, VT, TechSideline.com, TSL podcast, however you consume them in video or audio form. We're at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on your social media platforms of choice. Andy, you referenced a couple of points, one of them being the concept of doing more with less. I would imagine you'll be doing your Talking with Teal podcast on the Virginia Tech, on the Tech Sideline Podcast Network, which will drop that podcast in the next day or so with David Teal. But he asked the question about doing more with less, and that was the first thing Brian White kind of flipped in talking about not wanting to do more with less, but doing more with more. How much is that something that Virginia Tech is committed to doing under Brian White, as they were, it seemed, the moment they hired James Franklin?
Well, I think ever since the Invest to Win plan went into effect and was presented, there's been a tonal shift at Virginia Tech. And it's no longer, hey, what can we do with the resources that we previously had? It's what can we do to upgrade our total resources? What places can we look, stones left unturned, or different revenue generators, whether it's naming rights or jersey patches or renegotiating the Nike deal that's really been under market for a while. It's not just standing pat and accepting that these things are the way they are and they can't keep up. I mean, look, Wade Babcock made the presentation in August, and boom, like immediately they figured out another $50 million a year that they were going to generate through, philanthropy and some of the stuff from the, donors and fundraising, things like that. So, there is a way to grow this revenue. And I think it's just fresh perspective on this, outside ideas, people looking at it a different way or coming in at a different angle. That's the way to do it. But, like I said, the days of doing more with less, which, I'm from a newspaper background, and believe me, I heard do more with less for a lot of years in the newspaper industry. And it was always terrible. It never worked. It never made the product better. That is a bad route to take. So I think the alternate path here and trying to find out other ways to create revenue and money, that's what college athletics is all about right now, especially now that the players are getting their share.
Hey, your friend and friend of the TSL Podcast Network, he's got his own Talking with Teal. David Teal put this out a day or so ago that the athletic fundraising at FAU when Brian White was there ballooned by 625% over a 5-year window, and they got a $22.5 million stadium naming rights deal a couple of years ago. Is it reasonable to expect similar growth or at least raw revenue figures to increase at Virginia Tech like that?
Well, I don't think you'll see a percentage like that. Virginia Tech already has a pretty good fundraising operation going along. And also there was a Final Four appearance along the way there. When you win like that and you have a memorable season like that, it is going to juice those fundraising numbers. You're coming from a lower number. You have an incredible season like that. So I don't think you'll see 600% increase or anything like that. That'd be incredible. They'd be in the Texas range if they were doing stuff of that nature. But I do think you'll see an improvement. I think you'll see an emphasis on it. Again, he has run athletic departments like a business in previous places that he's been, certainly FAU where he's been in charge, but he's seen it in place at other stops along the way. Louisiana Tech, he dealt with donors quite a bit. And I think that's just sort of his wheelhouse, what he does. So having that business side, and you look at the search committee that hired him, it was all business people, other than James Franklin, obviously, but CEOs, business people, people that have had success with money in the past. You see all the board of visitors action that they've been doing lately, and it's about, allocating more money for athletics, figuring out how to spend that. I think chief among his duties is going to be revenue generation and how can he get more money, and he's going to attack that. That's going to be his primary job, because honestly, he walks into a situation that's not terrible for an AD. If you question his time at Florida Atlantic, it's like, he made a couple football hires that have not worked out. Well, guess what? He doesn't have to make a football hire here. That's in place. And I think I would trust James Franklin on how to put together a program that can succeed. He's done it for over a decade at Penn State. He's seen what it's like to compete at that level. Let him handle that side of it, and you figure out ways to give him the resources to do it.
This sounds like Virginia Tech's got more of a salesman, a business person in this spot, as opposed to someone in more the traditional athletics and academia background. Is that the correct observation on two fronts? My observation, but more importantly, the correct observation that Virginia Tech is getting that at the time it needs it.
Well, yeah, I think he has that aspect to it, but I don't think that's to give short change to the interpersonal side of it. You look at his background. His father, Kevin White, was a well-respected athletic director who spent time for 30 plus years, I think 40 years even. Most famously at Arizona State, Notre Dame, and Duke, where he retired in 2021. His older brother is the athletic director at Tennessee. His younger sister worked in athletics administration at SMU. She's not there any longer, but she had done it before. So this is sort of the family business, and he has been around this mode of operation for a while, and seeing people filter in and out of their house. His dad gave the quote that they didn't grow up in a house; they grew up in a retail store, because there were so many people coming in and out of their house all the time, and different meetings and student athletes that came over and dinners that they would host. And this is just sort of the family lifestyle. And as much as, Kevin White said he tried to get his sons away from the business or try to get them interested in something else, they sort of migrated to this. So I think the people skills are there. I think the interpersonal relationships still matter to him. He's not just a business guy. It sounds like he's somebody that's capable of handling both ends of this.
Last one for Andy Bitter of TechSideline.com. Andy, in a brawl for the ages in the TSL studios in Blacksburg, Virginia, who's going to win out? You, as you ask the question of how likely it is Tennessee might get on the schedule now that Virginia Tech's got the brother of Tennessee AD Danny White running their operation, or Chris Coleman because he wants West Virginia and Tennessee's less likely?
I don't know. I'll believe Tennessee when I see it. There's not been an easy game to schedule over the years, and I don't know if the Vols actually have any interest in coming to Lane Stadium at a time. I think it'd be a great series. I think it'd be a fun series to see. I also think West Virginia would too, but you look at the way scheduling is going, and there's only 3 non-conference slots a year, and really only one of those games, maybe 2 in a given year, will be interesting. I mean, they already got rid of Maryland next year, and it looks like they're going to replace it with the Citadel. So, that probably tells you the direction non-conference schedule is going. So I wouldn't hold my breath on either, but I'd say West Virginia is probably still more likely than Tennessee, even though I'd much prefer to see the latter at this point.
Well, you mentioned the way it's going in scheduling. I think your most apt observation is we might be getting a lot of these matchups like the Citadel, especially with Notre Dame already penciled into the schedule going forward. We'll pencil in TechSideline.com for more of our great analysis on the Virginia Tech Hokies. Andy Bitter with us in the Fast Lane. Andy, we appreciate your time in the Fast Lane. I'd be remiss if I didn't sign off by saying that our guest yesterday, and our listeners can go back to listen to that.
And guess what? We keep receipts.
At Fast Lane Ed Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts. Jefferson Forest High School Athletic Director Jeremy Sink passes along his regards.
Oh, yeah. Nice to hear from Jeremy. It's been a while.
It has, and we're always glad when we can hear from Andy Bitter as well, who joins us today in the Fast Lane. If you missed it, Fast Lane Ed Lane, where you listen to podcasts. Always check us out there. We're at Fastlane Ed Lane on the socials there at TechSideline.com as well to connect with them. Meanwhile, tomorrow in the Fast Lane, we will have Faith Fridays because likely no show on Friday. So Faith Fridays Thursday with Dr. Dot Richardson of the Liberty Flame softball program tomorrow in the Fast Lane. Thanks for listening to the Fast Lane on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM W227 BG Timberlake and 1320 AM WVG.